We've reached the top of the hour and will begin. If you need to be unmuted, please press star 9 to raise your hand and we'll unmute your line.
Hello, everyone. Karen, can we hear me okay?
This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on NHSN data entry for long-term care facilities. Our agenda today, we're going to do some opening remarks, some general housekeeping for the webinar, and then we're going to do a presentation on how to enter your data into NHSN each month. We're going to have a question and answer session with our NHSN expert that's on the call, and then we'll do some final closing remarks after that. So first I wanted to give you a little introduction to Adam Alliance, just in case you might be new. I wanted to show you a picture. This is the 5 states that are part of our alliance. We've got Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. And so thank you to all of you long-term care facilities and quality advisors who have called in from all of these states today. So now I'm going to turn it over to Brandy, who's going to give you some information on some housekeeping items today.
Thank you, Sarah. All phone lines have been muted now, and during the presentation, we will enable the ability for you to unmute your phone line so you can share with the group. You may use star 2 on your phone to unmute yourself and star 9 to raise your hand during the presentation if you would like the line to be taken off mute to participate. We encourage your participation throughout in the chat feature. You can select to send your questions or comments to all participants or certain individuals from the drop-down menu. Advisors from the Adam Alliance will be monitoring the chat box for questions and any feedback that you would like to share, and will respond either in the chat box or during the call. You may also use the Q&A function to direct questions to certain individuals privately throughout the presentation. I will be posting a link to download the slides from this presentation in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Brandy, for that housekeeping. And so my name is Sarah Potter. I'm going to introduce those of us that are on the call today to do the presentation and answer your questions. Like I said, I'm Sarah Potter. I'm a Quality Improvement Advisor from Adam Alliance, and I am in Tennessee. I'll be facilitating the call today. And then we also have Angela and Philippa from the CDC. She's our NHSN expert that's on the call today to answer your questions. So please take advantage of her knowledge today and ask anything that you can think of. We also have Brandy Taggett, who is a Quality Improvement Advisor with Adam Alliance as well. She is from Kentucky, and she's going to be our chat monitor today. So any kind of questions that you'd like to put in chat or just feedback in general, she'll be watching those for us. So our objectives today for the call, we're going to demonstrate the process for entering CDIP data in the long-term care NHSN module, and then we're going to have a question and answer session with our NHSN expert. So I wanted first to kind of go over the timeline for our NHSN project, and this is, just to get started with our small cohort that you are a part of. And the goal for this project is to develop a baseline for C-difficile infections or CDI in long-term care facilities. Across the nation, we didn't have a whole lot of data for C-difficile in long-term care, and so the goal for this is to increase that amount of data so that we can develop a baseline and see where we are in long-term care. So the date for that baseline is 10 consecutive months of data entry from March 2017 through December 2017. Now, that's not to say that you can't report data before that or after that going forward. We expect that you would continue. But these 10 months are the ones that Adam Alliance will be working with you closely on. And don't be alarmed if you haven't put in March, April, or May just yet. You can do that retrospectively, and we'll be happy to help you. So I wanted to start off with just giving you an overview of the 3 steps that you must complete each month in order for your data to be complete in NHSN. And so even if you have 0 C. difficile events at your facility, you're still expected to do 2 of these things. Just keep that in mind. If you do have C. difficile events in your facility, then you will need to complete all 3. And those are your monthly reporting plan, which we're going to go over here in just a minute, all 3 of these. And also, if you have C. diff events, you will need to enter the information for those events, which is a little bit more detailed. And then lastly, your summary data will need to be completed for the month. And that's denominator information that has to do with admissions and things like that. So 3 things that you have to complete each month to report. So the first thing that we're going to go over is your monthly reporting plan. So basically what this is you are telling the CDC that you are going to be doing surveillance and tracking C. diff infections in your facility for that month. So you need to go in and tell them that C. diff is what you're reporting that month. And we'll see here shortly that there are other options in the long-term care module for you to report on. But for this project, we're focusing mainly on C. diff, and that's the one that we're requiring. So when you log into NHSN, I will start off by saying that these screenshots, there have been some updates in the system since these screenshots were pulled. So when you log in, it may look a little different as far as the font and the colors, but all the information is still the same and is still available on the screen like we're showing it here. When you log into NHSN to do your reporting, the first thing you're going to do is your reporting plan for the month. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a menu in blue, and you'll see the option reporting plan. When you hover over reporting plan, you're going to see the options add and sign show up. So to add a new reporting plan, you're going to click add. Now, if you've already done a reporting plan for the month and you need to edit it, or you would just like to see what you enter, then you could choose the find option and you'd be able to pull it up that way. The next step for the reporting plan is going to be that you're going to choose the month and the year that you are telling the CDC that you're going to be doing surveillance. And so for this project, we started with March of 2017. So in these drop-down menus, you would choose the month and the year that you're reporting for. Now, if for some reason you may have access to more than one facility, then you could also choose that from the drop-down here. Once you choose the month and date, then you're going to see these 3 options pop up. So you've got the HAI module, the Lab ID event module, and the Prevention Process Measure module. Now, for this project, we are only looking at C. difficile. That does not mean that you cannot choose to do the others if you would like. You can definitely do that, and so this is where you would choose what you're going to track for that month. So in the middle here is the C. diff option. This is the Lab ID event module, and over to the right, you're going to see this drop-down arrow. This is where you will choose the specific organism type. So when you do the drop-down, you'll see several different organisms to choose from, and you can just choose C. diff. This box over to the right will be checked, and that needs to remain checked. And that means that you are going to be looking at all of your lab specimens for that month. And when you click save down here at the bottom, then it's going to know that CDIS is the only thing that you are reporting on that month. So that is how you do your monthly reporting plan. Do we have any questions so far about that piece of it? If so, you can enter them in chat, or you can unmute your phone.
We do not have any questions at this time, Sarah.
Okie dokie. Okay, so that's going to be your first step of the month, is doing your monthly reporting plan. And what we'll do is I'll skip over and show you the entering CDIS event information in text, and then we'll go back to the summary data. So as you're watching your lab specimen results throughout the month, and you're tracking your CDIS, if you get a positive CDIS event for the month, then you're going to need to go into NHSN and enter more details about that event. So it's going to be the same blue menu on the left when you log in, and you're going to see the event option. Underneath, you'll see similar options as reporting plan where you can add to add a new event, or find if you want to pull up one you've already done, or if you have any incomplete that need to be completed, you can find those as well. Today we're going to focus on just adding an event. When you click add, it's going to bring up a page to enter information about the resident. So make sure before you go to enter this event into NHSN that you have resident information available to you, whether it's the chart in front of you or perhaps the face sheet. You will need this information to enter into NHSN. The red asterisk fields are required. However, I do recommend that you fill in as much information as you can. The facility ID is going to be automatically entered, but then the resident ID is the next option. And that's going to be the ID number that you use at your facility to identify that resident. So perhaps the medical record number. You'll enter that there. The social security number of the resident is the next option. And then the name is not required, but you can enter that for easier identification. And then gender and date of birth are required. And down here at the bottom, you'll see some more required fields, and these are about admission date and resident type. So you're going to choose long stay or short stay, and this is based on 100 days. And then the date of first admission to the facility. So this is described as the date the resident entered the facility and stayed without interruption for greater than 30 consecutive days. If the resident leaves the facility for greater than 30 days and returns, we're going to enter the date of return in this box. So 30 days is the number to go by. And then over to the right is the date of current admission to the facility. So this is going to be the most recent date the resident entered the facility. If the resident has not left the facility for greater than 2 calendar days, then the date of current admission might be the same as the date of first admission if they haven't left. Now, if they are admitted to the hospital and gone for 5 days or something like that, then you would enter the date that they came back from the hospital as their current admission. But you would leave the date of first admission the same. So if you have more questions about that, the CDC has lots of tip sheets, and we at Ag Alliance have also put those on our website, and we have a little video describing it and everything. So if you forget, don't worry, you don't have to memorize it. We have lots of resources for you to use when it comes time to enter your event. Next on that page, we'll come down to more specific information about the specimen selection. So it's going to have the event type as a CDI event, and then the date the specimen was collected. This is really important. And then the specific organism type. So when you choose CDIS as the specific organism type, it's going to automatically fill in that it was the digestive system and a stool specimen. But then below that, you're going to need to choose where the resident was at your facility. So when you first prepare your NHSN for reporting, you match your location in your facility. If you've not done that yet, we have a great video on our website, and the CDC also has some really good tools that can walk you through doing that. So when you get to this, you'll have a little drop-down menu that are the locations within your facility to choose from. So you can choose where that resident was when the specimen was collected. Also, what was the primary service type? So if they were in 200 Hall, for example, you would choose what is 200 Hall. Is it a dementia unit? Is it long-term general nursing? And that sort of thing. Then you want to say, has the resident been transferred from an acute care facility in the past 4 weeks? Yes or no? If yes, what was the date of that last transfer? And was the resident on antibiotic therapy for this specific organism type at the time of transfer to your facility? Yes or no? So you'll need all that information to enter your C. diff event. Once you complete that, you will need to do your monthly summary data. So this is going to be your denominator information. So you will need some information from probably your admissions office. You'll need admission numbers, census numbers, things like that. So the summary data is the same menu on the left, the blue menu, and you'll see the option for summary data. And underneath, same as before, add, find, or incomplete. So we're going to do add to add the new summary data. So we'll say that we're still in March because we did our monthly reporting plan for March. And now we're going to do our summary data now that we've entered our event. We're going to choose March 2017. And then NHSN is going to know what you chose to report for that month based on your reporting plan. So on this screen, once you choose the month and the year, you should only see the options that you've chosen to report on. If you see other options that perhaps you were not doing surveillance on that month, then you might need to go back and update your reporting plan and make sure that it's accurate. So, since we already entered our reporting plan for March and we chose C. diff, then when we go to do our summary data, the only option that we have to do is this MDRO and CDI lab ID event reporting section. In this section, there's 3 boxes over on the left, and that's where you'll enter your numbers for that month. So the top option is total resident admissions for that month. So any resident that was admitted to your facility that month, you would count them in this box. In the middle box here, we have resident days. And then in the bottom box, we have the number of admissions on C. diff treatment. This is going to be where you enter the number of residents who were admitted to your facility already being treated for C. diff. You would enter that number there. So those are going to be the 3 pieces of information that you're going to want to make sure that you have in front of you before you log into NHSN to enter this information. Also on this screen, if you did not have any C. diff events for the month, so you need to report to the CDC that you had 0. This is where you would do that. So after you've done your monthly reporting plan and your summary data, if you had 0 events, you would need to make sure that you check this box under C. difficile and report no events. That's going to be your option if you are reporting 0. If you have events for the month and you've entered those events, then you do not need to check this box. This is only if you're reporting 0. All right. So that is basically what I wanted to show you with NHSN, that you need to make sure that you complete each month for your data to be complete. Does anyone have any questions about those pieces of information? Or Angela, is there anything that maybe you would like to add to that? No questions, Sarah?
Hi, Sarah. This is Angela. I think that was phenomenal, and I don't have anything to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the audience may have.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Star 9 to raise your hand.
everyone, please take advantage of us having Angela on the call today. She's our NHSN expert, and we really wanted to make sure that she was available for you to ask any questions about this reporting that you might have. Okay, well, I'm going to move on just a little bit, and if you think of anything, just enter it into chat, or you can press star 9 and raise your hand, and we can let you talk. So the next thing that I just wanted to sort of go over with you today is the infection tracking tool from the National Nursing Home Quality Campaign. This is just a tool that I wanted to show you in case you wanted to use it to track your infections throughout the month. There are several options for you to do that. I'm sure most of you are already keeping track some way at your facility. The CDC has some paper tools as well on their website that are really good. And then this is an Excel spreadsheet tool that matches NHSN pretty well so that it can assist you in entering the info. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of it so that if you do want to utilize it at your facility, you can. This is the link where it can be found, and Brandy has posted that in chat for you so that you can download it if you wish. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you the website where you can find the tool. This is the National Nursing Home Quality Improvement Campaign website. And most of you are probably familiar with it. It's got some really great quality improvement tools that are free to use in long-term care to use. And so today I'm going to show you the infection tracking tool, which is specific for C. diff. So up here at the top, you see the goals section, and if we go down to the infection goal and click on that, then it's going to take us to this whole page. And this page talks a lot about C. diff and some of the, definitions and improvements that you can work on around C. difficile. But to get to the tool, you're going to go to this Identify Baseline option. And when you go here, it's got this infection tracking tool. And it's an Excel workbook, and there's also a little PDF with instructions on how to use it if you would like that. I have already downloaded it to my computer, so I'm just going to pull it up and just give you a quick overview. We actually have a video on our website where I go through this tool in very much detail. So we will give you the link to that as well if you decide that this might be something that you would like to utilize. So basically, this is going to be used for tracking your C. diff infections throughout the month. So you're probably already doing this, like I said, but this is a really good tool. It's got the algorithms built in for you so that you don't really have to do a lot of looking at the dates and things like that and knowing when to enter things into NHSN. So as you can see, when you open up the tool, it's got several tabs along the bottom. We've got a welcome tab and then common questions and answers. I think this is a really good page if you have questions about your C. diff event and whether you are tracking them appropriately or if they are nursing home onset or community onset or duplicates or something like that. This page can help answer some of those questions for you. The definitions are listed here on this tab as well by themselves, and it has this information to help you identify whether it's incident, recurrent, things like that. This algorithm here is already built into the spreadsheet, so when you start to enter your specimens, it will go ahead and tell you whether it's recurrent or anything like that. This next tab is where you're going to enter your residence. So what I've been recommending is when you get a positive lab result for C. diff, that you go ahead and get on here and enter the residence information right when you get it. So I've gone ahead and entered myself and Brandy as our residents today. The next tab is your specimen log. So this is where you're going to go to enter the information when you get a positive C. diff result. The cool thing about this tool as well is you can use it for an entire year. So at the top, you can choose, I chose March 2016, and it went ahead and plugged in March 2017. So I can use it for the entire year. What I did here as well prior to the call was entered some information for some C. diff results. So I'm going to show you a new one just so you can see kind of how I did that. But basically, you start with the resident name and you choose from the drop down because it's going to be the residence that you entered on that previous tab. And then you're going to do the columns with the red asterisk are the ones that are required. So date of current admission, I said March 1st, 2016. I chose long stay as the stay type. And then it is recommended in order to really look at your processes at your facility and really track C. diff and improvements around it to enter this other information as well. So what was the date of diarrhea onset? What was the date of contact precautions being implemented? And that way you can kind of keep an eye on your facility whether interventions are happening in a timely manner. And then the date the stool specimen was collected is the last required piece of information. And so I put March 5th. So she was admitted on the 1st, and her positive specimen was on the 5th. So what this spreadsheet did for me then is it highlighted this resident's positive specimen as red. And it tells me up here at the top that red indicates nursing home onset incident CDI lab event. So it's nursing home onset because it was 4, maybe 5 days after she was admitted that the positive specimen came back. So it tells me it's nursing home onset, it's an incident case. And over here on the left, it tells me, yes, this needs to be entered into NHSN. Now, I had changed this earlier, but what it's going to do is it's going to be yellow and it's going to say need to do. So that way, when you're entering into NHSN, you can keep track. Like if you had 5 positive events that month and you track them on this spreadsheet, then as you go into NHSN and enter them, you can mark it as completed. That way you can be sure that you've entered all your events for the month into NHSN. Now the next one that I entered was on that same resident, Sarah Potter, and same admission date. She's still a long stay. But then this time, we got a positive specimen on March 12th. So, we got the one on the 5th, maybe antibiotics were given, and then now when she finished, they tested again, and it was positive again on the 12th. However, this time, it did not highlight it because it's telling you this is a duplicate positive. And that's because it was within 14 days of the previous positive result. So over here on the left, the spreadsheet is automatically telling you, no, you do not need to report that to NHSN. So let me show you another one really quick here. We'll do Brandy this time. So I'm going to choose her name from the drop down. And we'll say that she was admitted on April 10th. Yeah. April 10th. She's long stay. And then we'll say that right when she got to the facility, she was showing signs and symptoms of C. diff, and so we took a specimen, and it came back positive within 2 days of her admission. So we'll say the 12th. So once I entered that information in, as you can see, it went ahead and highlighted that, yes, I do need to put this into NHSN. It is community onset, however, so it let me know that because we got a positive result within 72 hours of admission to our facility, that is considered a community onset. So the CDC is going to know that. When you enter this information into NHSN, you are reporting it because the positive specimen happened at your facility. However, because it was within 72 hours of admission, it is a community onset, and so that is reported as well. So this is where you're going to keep your specimen, and then the next tab is going to be your admissions and census information that you're going to need for that summary data page in NHSN. So here, I just entered some random numbers for March. I put that there was 20 total admissions, and that 5 were already on CVI treatment at the time of admission. And then our average daily census was 120. And then the spreadsheet already knows that there's 31 days in March, and so it calculated your resident days for you. So I really like that about this spreadsheet as well. I think it's helpful. So that's what you would need to do is just enter these 3 pieces of information, and it would spit out the resident days for you. And so that's pretty much all I want to go over with you guys with this spreadsheet today. So does anyone have any questions about tracking C. diff or which C. diff events you need to report or anything like that? Please ask away. Because we really want Angela to be able to share that with everyone. And like Karen was saying, you can press *9 to raise your hand and they can unmute you. Or you can enter your question in chat, whichever you would prefer. Okay, well, if there are any questions right now, then Angela, I don't know if maybe you would want to share maybe a couple of frequently asked questions that you get from long-term care facilities.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So one question that we often get is how do facilities track the resident days? And I don't know that you guys have a question because I think that Sarah did a good job explaining how to track the resident days. But for those of you who may still be unclear, I just want to remind you that resident days is the sum of the daily total of residents in your facility, bedded residents. So for every day in the month, or actually, I want to back up. There's 2 ways you can do it because the way that Sarah showed, you can take you can estimate your resident days by the beds in your facility times the number of days in the month, and that'll give you an estimated resident days. The other way that you could track that is by each day counting how many residents are bedded in your unit, and then at the end of the month, take the total of that count, and that is the total that you would enter into the NHSN application. And I'm pointing this out because sometimes facilities will take the number of residents that are in the facility on the day that the facility is entering the data into NHSN. So that is an underestimate of the number of resident days in the facility. And by incorrectly entering your resident days, then it will impact your overall infection rate. So, for example, if you enter, if your resident days are too low and you do report a C. C. difficile infection for that month, then your infection rate is going to be higher than it would be if you enter the correct number of resident days. So it's really important that you're entering the resident days as close to possible to represent the number of bedded residents in your facility each day of that month. And I would like to ask a question of the group. Has anyone on the call had the opportunity to enter a CDI Lab ID event into the NHSN? And if so, what was your experience with entering that event? And you would press star 9 to raise your hand, or you could type it in the chat if you prefer. Anyone? Okay, so I will continue. If you decide that you want to respond, then star 9 to raise your hand or put your response in the chat. Another question that we sometimes get from users is relating to a resident who comes to your facility on treatment for C. difficile. And is that resident counted as a CDI event for the facility? And the answer to that question is no. Unless the resident has that lab collected from your facility, then the lab does not get counted as a CDI Lab ID event for your facility. There is one exception to that. If the resident is a resident in your facility and he or she goes to an outpatient setting for a day, so let's say that Mrs. Jones has to get transferred to the local emergency department, and while in the emergency department, a stool specimen is collected and it comes back positive for C. difficile. Your facility would report that positive specimen just as Ms. Jones was still in your facility if she returns back to your facility either on the day that she left your facility to go to the emergency room, so that same calendar day, or if she returns to your facility the very next calendar day. So those outpatient specimens are allowed only if the resident is only out of your facility no more than 2 calendar days. Do you guys have any questions about that? So I do want to say, if the resident goes to the hospital and is admitted as an inpatient in that hospital, then no specimens collected in that hospital setting should be reported by your facility. So you're only reporting specimens that are either collected in your facility or collected while your resident is seeking treatment from an outpatient center. And
It sounds like we're having some audio difficulties. Angela, we can no longer hear you. Hi, Angela. Can you speak now? It sounds like we have.
I was going to say, okay, well, that's okay. This is Sarah. I think
I
that
have a question, Sarah.
Okay.
Or it's actually not a question. This is Brandy. I've got some input. Our facility has been fortunate enough to only have to report no events in the monthly summary. So great, congratulations for that. So I think a lot of nursing homes have not had to report any events so far, so that's great.
Okay, yeah, and I think that if Angela comes back on, she can continue. But I think she's gotten through kind of what she was trying to say about that one exception to the rule that if the resident leaves your facility for an outpatient visit, or it could even be an ED visit, but they're not admitted and they come back within 2 calendar days, then you do report that specimen as being from your facility. So I know there have been some questions about that, so I'm glad that she elaborated on that. And just remember that any of the residents that are admitted to your facility already on treatment for C. diff, you would enter those in your monthly summary data, just those numbers. Currently, you don't have to worry about entering any specific information about the antibiotic or the duration or anything like that. Although keeping track of that is beneficial, and there is a spot in NHSN where you can enter it in the comments when you do enter an event. I have seen some nursing homes do that, so I think that's helpful.
Hi, Sarah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Actually, for some reason, I have to keep calling in on 2 different phones because I can hear you guys. I apologize for that, guys. So I did hear that a facility reported in that they had not had any CDI events, and that's awesome. Congratulations. Any other? Okay, great.
Yeah, this is Brandy. I just have a question. This is something I've had a lot of questions about. Can they set up their monthly reporting plan for the year? Can they go ahead and do that all at once and get that done?
That's a great question, and it's a great idea, yes. The monthly reporting plans can be set up for the full year in advance. And what you can do is when you set up one, then you can just keep copying that for every month of the year. And I actually recommend that because it just is one more step that you can mark off your list, of things you have to do. And then if you decide, and I know you guys are going to laugh at this, but if you decide in the future that you want to add another module to do surveillance, so let's say that you're doing the C. difficile surveillance for this project, but you want to get really excited about entering your UTI data too, you can always go back and edit your monthly reporting plan and add additional modules if you wanted to.
Okay, that's great. I think that would save some time for them too. That'd be really efficient.
Another question I do get from some nursing homes, and I hope that I can articulate this without confusing you guys. So on your denominator reporting, so on your summary data, there's a question that asks how many residents admitted on C. difficile treatment. That question, I just want to point out, is, oh good, thank you for going to the screen. So what you're seeing, Sarah just moved to the screen, so the number of admissions on C. difficile treatment. That question is exclusive of C. difficile event reporting. So in other words, you could have a resident who was admitted into an acute care facility, and then the resident is transferred to your facility, and the resident is being treated for C. difficile. So that resident would count in this monthly summary number. But that does not mean that you have to also enter C. difficile lab ID event for that resident, okay? So the only time that you would enter the C. difficile lab ID event for the resident is if the resident had other specimen collected while he was in your long-term care facility. Those two questions are exclusive of each other. And the number is going to likely be different. So you can have 0 C. difficile lab ID events reported for the month, but you can have 5 residents who were admitted on C. difficile treatment for the month. I hope that makes sense, what I just said. Oh, okay. So I do see a question coming across the chat from Kim. Thank you. This is an excellent question. So she's saying that some facilities have questions about C. difficile lab test methods as documented in the annual facility survey that you guys complete once a year. So some facilities are using PCR testing, but selecting other because they did not realize that NAT or the NAAT is also considered PCR testing. And you are exactly right, Kim. We have heard about that. And so what we've done, we can't go back and fix this current calendar year, but for starting next calendar year, when you do your annual survey, we've added PCR in parentheses to the annual survey so that facilities would not get confused, because I agree that is very confusing. So you can, the good news is that if your facility does PCR testing or sends out to a lab that does PCR testing, and that's the primary or the most popular method of testing for C. difficile, if you selected other and type in PCR on your annual survey, if you would just go back to your annual survey and edit that survey and select, delete the selection for other and select the NAAT, the NAT testing. And you can always send us an email at NHSN if you need help doing that, and we are more than happy to help you. Our email is nhsn@cdc.gov, G-O-V. And if you put in the subject line LTCF, that way it can get quickly triaged to our group. So again, that's nhsn@cdc.gov.
I also see another question about the reporting plan, and it says, can the reporting plans only be pre-entered for the calendar year, or can you do a rolling year?
That's a great question. And everything that we do in terms of updating our protocols and updating the NHSN application itself is done in a calendar year. So from January 1st to December 31st. So you would can only do it for the calendar year. So for the remainder of this year, you can put a reporting plan in place through December of 2017.
I have another question, Angela. We have hospitals that have protocols to routinely check nursing home residents for CDI. Even though colonized, they are treated for CDI and returned to your facility from the ED. Do you have to count that as CDI even though nursing home had previously treated and it's really colonized?
That's a good question, and it's a little bit of a tricky question that also brings some controversy, unfortunately. So the protocol is set up in a way that we try to simplify the process and streamline the process as much as possible for those users entering data. And we really try to limit the amount of time that the users have to spend digging through a medical record. But with that being said, that can decrease the specificity of lab ID event reporting. So to answer your question, if the test is done on a loose stool specimen, then the result should be considered, if it's positive, in lab ID event reporting, even if that resident had been previously treated for C. difficile. We know that a lot of times it definitely could be colonization, But it could also be that it's a different strain. So maybe the strain that the resident was treated for has been cleared, but maybe the resident was exposed to another strain of C. difficile, and that's the reason for the positive toxin, especially if the resident is symptomatic. Now, if you know for a fact that the C. difficile test was not done on a loose stool specimen, if they did a formed stool specimen and you have documentation of that, then you do not have to report that as a C. difficile lab ID event. I just don't know how well that documentation, or that will be documented for you. I don't know if nursing homes or hospitals make it a practice of documenting the consistency of the stool, but if they do, you can use that to your advantage. So I do want to bring up, okay, no, I don't. So I was going to bring up in this case, so let me ask you guys, so in the case that you just presented, so if a resident leaves your facility and receives treatment in an emergency department, so the resident leaves, goes to the emergency department, a specimen is collected, it is positive for C. difficile, and the resident returns back to your facility on the same calendar day. So yes, you would report the positive C. difficile lab ID event, but would you report that resident on your summary data as in that question, number of admissions on C. difficile treatment? What do you guys think about that? And you can just type it in the chat box if you'd like. Any takers? Any guesses out there? I know your reporting is fairly new, so you may not have had this situation come up yet. So I'm going to give you the answer. So unless that resident is admitted back to your facility, so the resident was an inpatient admission and is admitted back to your facility, you would not count it. So in this case, if the resident just goes for an outpatient visit and comes back on treatment, that is not a new admission. That's just considered an outpatient visit and the resident is coming back.
That was a great question that I'm sure will come up at some point if it hasn't already. Really quick, I want to ask you if you could just share in the chat so that we as the QIO and Quinn can know best how to assist you. Could you just share with us how you're currently tracking C. disinfection? Are you tracking on paper or are you tracking electronically, maybe with a spreadsheet or in NHSN only, or just would you mind sharing that with me in chat? And then if you have any other questions for Angela, if you had anything else you wanted to share.
No, I'm glad you asked that question because I think we're all interested in knowing how nursing homes are tracking their C. difficile, because if once we better understand how you all are doing your surveillance, we are going to be in a better position to be able to help you and give you the tools that you need. The reporting into NHSN is really new for most nursing homes. We had, I think, around 200 nursing homes reporting before 2016. And now we have close to 3,000 nursing homes. So that is a huge jump. And we are just still trying to understand how we can best help the nursing homes. And by you participating in this CDI project, this is the first step in helping us to help you. So we appreciate you joining calls like this, and we appreciate any feedback that you provide to us or Sarah's team. Just know that we read everything that you send us and take into consideration every single bit of feedback that we receive from our nursing homes. Okay, so I do see Robin said that their facility tracks all infections. Wow, you're busy, I'm so sure. And you track on the paper form, and then you just transfer the data into the CDC. My guess is you're in the same boat with many, if not most, other nursing homes. Are you using the NHSN paper forms, Robin, to track or to document your infections? Okay, so the facility has a tool. Okay, excellent. I like that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your input, and everybody else on the call. If you wouldn't mind just sharing, if you're doing the same thing as Robin, or if you're doing something different, we won't necessarily call you out. We just are very interested so that we can better assist you, like Angela was saying. So we're getting close to the end of our call today, so I wanted to just go ahead and, thank you, Angela, so much for being on the call today and available to answer questions. And like she said, anytime you have any questions, you can reach out to them at their email, which we'll put in the chat. And also reach out to us in your individual state. You have a quality improvement advisor at the QIO who is happy to assist you anytime. And if you don't have any other questions for Angela, then I'm going to go ahead and just provide you some quick resources. So Adam Alliance, we have a website here at the top. This is our specific site for our long-term care facilities. And on that page, I have recorded several webinars. They're just quick, short, basically me going through a PowerPoint of how to do the things that we talked about today. So how to use the Advancing Excellence for National Nursing Home Quality Improvement Campaign tool that I showed you. Also, how to enroll your facility in NHSN, which I think most of you already are enrolled, but there's a video for that. And then setting up your NHSN for reporting, so mapping your location, like we talked about, and doing your reporting plans and things like that. And then we also have a really great webinar series that we did with the Department of Health in Tennessee, and it would work across the board in any of the states. It's basically just a 5-part series about C. diff and about identifying it and preventing it and treating it appropriately and things like that. So that's a really great series as well. And then also at the bottom I included a link to the CDC's training resources for NHSN. I know they even just recently updated those, and they have a lot of really great PowerPoints and videos and things like that that can help you. So please utilize those. And we will provide these slides to you at the link that was provided in chat in a few days. And please complete the survey after this call. We have an on-demand learning page. So if you're interested in other things besides C. difficile, we have lots of information on those as well on our on-demand learning page on our website. And you can also connect with us on social media. We're on all of these platforms, so check those out when you can. And it looks like we don't have any other questions in the chat. It looks like another nursing home did say that they're using a facility tool as well, just like Robin said. So thank you so much for that. And it looks like we don't have any other questions, so I just want to thank everyone for calling in, and thank you, Angela, for being available to us. And everybody have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.